You know, it's a strange thing about history. We like to imagine it as a straight line progress, marching forward, problems solved once and for all, lessons learned and neatly filed away. But if we're honest with ourselves, history doesn't move that way. It circles back. It taps us on the shoulder. It asks the same questions again, only louder this time. And every generation is given a quiet test. Did you recognize the moment when it returned, or did you pretend it was something new? Most people overlook this about the age we're living in. They see the fires on the horizon, the floods in places that never flooded before, the heat that settles into cities and refuses to leave, and they think this is just another crisis, one more headline, one more problem to manage. But this moment isn't just about weather patterns or policy debates. It's about who we are when the bill for our choices finally comes due. Because we have been here before, not with the same technologies, not with the same vocabulary, not even with the same scale of consequence, but we have stood at the edge of moral reckoning before. We have faced moments when our comfort collided with our conscience, when the easy path promised prosperity while the harder one demanded responsibility. And in those moments, the question was never whether we had the power to act, it was whether we had the purpose to do so. I think about that often in the quiet hours, when the noise fades and the talking points fall away. Power is loud. It announces itself. It builds monuments and markets and machines. Purpose, on the other hand, is quieter. It asks something of you. It requires you to look beyond the next election, the next quarterly report, the next generation that doesn't yet have a voice. And climate change, this slow-moving, all-encompassing force, has a way of stripping away our illusions and asking us plainly which of those two we've been serving all along. If we're honest, the story didn't begin yesterday. It began in the late 1800s, when smoke rose from factory stacks and we told ourselves that progress had a price and that someone else someday would pay it. It accelerated in the mid-20th century, when our ingenuity unlocked unprecedented power, and with it, the ability to alter the very atmosphere that sustains life on this planet. We burned, we built, we expanded, and for a while, it felt like triumph. But nature has a memory. Carbon doesn't forget. The atmosphere keeps score. Storm by storm, drought by drought, flood by flood, the planet began to respond not with anger, but with consequence. And by 1988, when scientists gathered and raised their voices in warning, the truth was already clear enough to hear. The question wasn't whether the science was real. The question was whether we were ready to confront the moral implications of what it was telling us, because acting would mean choosing differently. It would mean asking prosperous nations to look beyond their own borders. It would mean acknowledging that the people who did the least to cause this crisis, the families on low-lying islands, the farmers in arid regions, the children breathing polluted air, were the ones paying first and paying most. And it would mean accepting a hard truth about leadership, that real responsibility often requires sacrifice long before it delivers reward. We've seen what happens when that responsibility is delayed. Homes swallowed by rising seas, communities uprooted by drought, lives disrupted not by a lack of effort or ambition, but by forces set in motion decades earlier. And every time we hesitate, every time we argue ourselves into inaction, the cost doesn't disappear. It compounds. It widens inequality. It fuels fear. It deepens division. It tests the very democracies we rely on to solve common problems together. Still, history offers us something else, if we're willing to see it. It offers precedent, because there have been moments, dark moments, when cooperation seemed impossible, when division felt permanent, when the scale of the challenge dwarfed our confidence, and yet, step by imperfect step, people chose to rise. They chose to look beyond themselves. They chose purpose over power. So the question before us now isn't whether climate change is real, or whether innovation is possible, or whether agreements can be signed. The deeper question, the one history will remember, is this. When the moment came back around, when the test returned wearing a different face, Did we recognize it? And did we rise again? If that question resonates with you, pause for a moment and sit with it. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments and where you're watching from. And if conversations like this matter to you, if reflection still has a place in your day, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.